when should people start looking into asking for help?
It depends. It really does make a difference on the lifestyle that each person lives. Where I mostly intervene is with the families. I like to help the family keep their role as the family member. The daughter to keep the role of the daughter, not, come on, mom, you have to take your pills. Come on, mom, let's go take a shower. I will go in there and I'm the one to be blamed. Well, the professional, the gerontologist said this is what we should do. You can still have that role as a daughter. Once you start feeling the necessity of time, of how you spend your time, that's when you know you need care.
Welcome to Life Chapters Podcast with Luis Vega.
Welcome back to Live Chapters. My name is Luis Vega, and today's special guest is Odette Yatako. Odette, welcome. Now, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do for a service today?
Yes. So I am a gerontologist. I have a master's in public health. So what I bring to the table is the clinical component and the difference, the gap between a clinical setting hospital to the comfort of the homes, wherever that home may be, in a community or an apartment, just that setting. So I'm be able to bring my experience and the holistic science of aging gracefully.
So, gerontology, I've never heard that before until I met you. But what made you get into gerontology?
So I started as a law major. I wanted to be a lawyer, so I started as a law major. I wanted to make a change. I followed the footsteps of my maternal grandmother. She's a very strong was a very strong alpha woman that didn't there was no boundaries. She was not submissive. You couldn't tell her what was her role as a woman versus a role as a man, and she was able to raise 9 children as a single mom by choice. So I saw that, and then I found my true passion with gerontology because I would go visit my grandma in Mexico, and to us, she was the center of the family. She was the why, she was the component, she was the strength. But when you come to the US, sometimes you see more of a clinical isolation, more of a structure. You see the nursing homes, and then you don't see the kids. So I grew up into 2 different worlds. And all the stories that I would hear from my family members, from my grandma, and back in the days, and this is what it used to be, there was that component, there was that story. Behind every wrinkle, there's a story. You just have to listen. So I changed my passion to gerontology, which is the holistic science of aging, but it's everything. It's social, it's mental, it's physical, all the aspects that you can think of. It encapsulates all of that in healthcare.
Every wrinkle has a story, has a memory. And your grandma, you said that she was like the alpha, like the focal point of the family. Is there a memory that you can recall from hearing to all the stories that come from your grandma?
My God, yes, there is one that I don't know 100% true, if it's true or not. But in my grandma's town, my grandma found out that my grandpa had an infidelity. And instead of just taking it as the regular norm of another man had another family, rumor is that she got a shotgun and told my grandpa to get out. And she started shooting at the floor, and he jumped, evading the shots to not get hit. So she literally kicked him out with the shotgun, and he just skipped around, missed the shots. So again, I don't know how true that is, but it was that strength in her that I'm not taking this. I'm not the norm. I'm not just going to be another woman that takes on the infidelity. And this was back in the 50s, 60s. It was unheard of that a woman would leave a man because they had another family.
How did that make you feel listening to your grandma share that story?
It's empowering, and I knew she was because just the aura she had, people would stop for her. They would just like move away, but it wasn't a move away because they were scared. It was the respect that she had. But she was also the type of person that would take a piece of tortilla out of her mouth to give it to someone
Yeah,
else.
okay.
And that's what was very important to me because living in the US, you're in a really fast paced environment. You can never have too many shoes. You're running from work, you're running from sports, you're taking them from one place to another. In my grandma's town, everything was peace. Everything was like, later on, we can do that later. So there, it wasn't the material, it was the trust that
Mhm.
people and your neighbors had. And it was the willingness to help someone wholeheartedly.
That speaks volumes because since the day that I met you, I can see that generosity that you have on giving information, giving value to all the people at the networking events that we have been. Now, going back to gerontology, is there a specific story or person that comes to mind in your entire journey as a gerontologist?
Yes, yes, it does. When I was still doing my undergrad, there was a professor of mine, which I still see him. He's one of my good mentors. I got a respite assignment for a female in Encinitas that had Alzheimer's and dementia. And I was just going to go once a week to be with her for a couple hours just to get her out of her room, take her to the dining room. This woman was one of the founders of the Boys and Girls Club in Carlsbad.
Mm,
She had outlived three of her husbands,
what?
and she had outlived two of her three sons. So this was a very strong, poetic person. And the first thing she told me the day I introduced myself, she told me, you have to come to my 92nd birthday because that's going to be the grand finale. Like, you have to be here for my birthday. It was many months apart. It was about 9 months apart. You have to be here. It's going to be the grand finale. The more I talked to her, and I'm just looking at her, I would never have known this information, the weight that she carried, the generosity, the pain that she carried because she outlived three of her husbands and two of her adult children.
Mhm.
Her last living adult child did not even live in the States. He lived in Canada, and he had a wife that was also going through a diagnosis. Most of the time, she would be herself. She would have her lipstick on
Mhm.
because she had that ruby red from Maybelline. That ruby red, she always had it on. But there would be a couple times that I knew she had a flare up. Her dementia
Mhm.
kicked in. She didn't want to get out of bed. She didn't have that red ruby lipstick on.
Mm.
And that really opened the eyes to me because had I not seen that firsthand, that here's a very successful woman and a diagnosis such as Alzheimer's and dementia in a quick 1 day turnaround would change her composure. Even the way she sat was different when she had a flare up. When she was 100% there, you would see her walking around saying hi. And the moments that she just wasn't, and who are you, her body composition changed. Well, long story short, her birthday came. I had already graduated undergrad. I still went to her birthday. I celebrated. I met her son. That same night, she died in her sleep. She
Mhm.
died in her sleep. So that forever is going to travel with me.
How does she know?
I don't know because she pain wise, physically wise, she didn't have any pain. She didn't, but she was already, I think there's a component, and I think that comes out a lot now, especially after COVID. I already lived all this life. I already outlived my husband's.
Mhm.
I already outlived my kids. What else? There was that lack of motivation. There was that gap of generation, the generation experience of having multicultural families, maybe. So she was in a nice or really nice nursing home, don't get me wrong. She had her room, but there was that gap that was very different from what I saw with my grandma in
Mhm.
Mexico and my family. Everything was in the kitchen, everything was lively. Everything was talking, like, you almost had to raise your hand to be able to sneak in a word, and it was a very, very different component. And here I had 2 really strong alpha women's, different cultures, different times, different successes in their own successes, and they both got taken out by dementia.
Hmm. That's very interesting that she knew when she outlived 3 husbands, kids. She only had 1 left. And then she even invited you for the 92nd birthday.
Yeah,
It's like that's the grand finale.
that was her grand finale.
I'm very curious to do more research on that because I have heard other people that their grandparents, it's like, hey, today is my last day. And it is.
I really do believe it was you need a carrot. The motivation was no longer there.
Hmm.
She Again, she was the founder of one of the Boys and Girls Club in Carlsbad. So she had already given everything she thought she could give,
Mm,
not knowing that she gave me one of the best gifts, that memory.
yeah, great memory. I'm glad I got to listen to it. Man. Now, you've been doing this for a while now. What's the difference between you and other people that provide maybe similar services?
Well, currently, my current role is the community relations director with Momentra Care. It is a home care agency as well. It's non-medical. What brings a little bit of a difference is one, we have no hour minimums. We also have virtual ambassadors, which is more like a telehealth Zoom like
Mm,
option that's 24/7 for the client, for the family, even for the caregivers that we send in case they have a question. I oversee all the cases and I bring the gerontological component. I have worked at a hospital before. I've seen that setting. Sometimes you work a lot in doing a great discharge plan, but once people get home, there's a failure. It could be as simple as, well, was the fridge stocked? Was there even water? Was there nutritious food? Are they just going to go and get a piece of cake? Are they not going to drink water? They're going to dehydrate. They're going to fall and get readmitted. So what I do is I see the things when I do a home assessment of things that can be prevented to keep you in your home. It could be as simple as changing a light bulb.
mhm,
Maybe it's really dark. As you age, your eyes physically start closing on you. So you see shadows. Maybe there was that rug you didn't see. Maybe the contrast of the floor and the chair looks the same, and that's why the client doesn't see it, bangs over it, or falls, trips over it. So sometimes it could be a chair. You can raise chairs. It can just be a stopper. So I provide my 2 cents. I'm an advocate of seniors and I'm a family educator because most of the time it all started because of a fall. But what if you can prevent that fall?
mhm.
So once you get that component, which is the easy, I can just point one thing out. Now let's think of the client in the whole. How can we support their lifestyle? How can we continue to have them be as independent as possible? My grandma was 3 months from being 90 years old when she passed away. She lived a really good life, a really long life because of the quality of life. She had goals, she had motivation. She was able to compete. I'm sorry, she was able to stay with the independence that she worked all her life
Mhm.
to do. So I wasn't going to come and take that away from her. I don't focus on the things that she couldn't do. I focus on the things that she could do. And I praised her
Mm,
and I reminded her of the things that made her her. And because she's always going to have a legacy, I'm going to follow in her footsteps. My son's going to follow in my footsteps, hopefully. So everything that she did has a purpose, and you just have to remind them of the legacy that they did. They had struggles, they had great success. You just have to focus on those little things.
I like something that you mentioned about helping them do the things that they already do by setting boundaries, by setting preventative things and putting things in place so they can still do the things that they like to do and not fall, because once they fall, everything just starts collapsing. Now, what age or when should people start looking into asking for help?
It depends. It really does make a difference on the lifestyle that each person lives. Where I mostly intervene is with the families. I like to help the family keep their role as the family member. The daughter to keep the role of the daughter, not, come on, mom, you have to take your pills. Come on, mom, let's go
Mm,
take a shower. I will go in there and I'm the one to be blamed. Well, the professional, the gerontologist said this is what we should do. You can still have that role as a daughter. Once you start feeling the necessity of time, of how you spend your time, that's when you know you need care. If you are in the sandwich generation and you're the daughter, you have your children, you have your mom. Once you start debating, well, where does my time go? Where can I divide my time between both generations that are near me? That's when it's time for a caregiver. Not because you're not able to, not because you're feeling the burden, not because you're feeling guilty, but you have to be able to keep the time on you're able to keep the time in your playing field.
hmm
So that's when mom decides, I can still drive. I still want to go do my Pilates. I still want to go do my Zumba. But maybe the doctor recommended that they can't drive anymore. You bring the caregiver. Now they have another person that they can tell the stories all over. They can watch their
Mm.
shows with them. They can be the transportation. And it doesn't have to mean that they're going to be overbearing. They can just be in the side. They can just be an extra pair of eyes. If they see you once you get up and you start trembling, if you're late getting to them, they're there to be able to prevent, hopefully, the fall.
Now, well, based on my experience with family, the kids look after their parents, grandparents, so on and so forth, to the point that they become the caregivers and they forget about work. They forget about their family because they have to be there for their parents. But I like that you mentioned once that starts being an issue of you got to pay attention to one generation and also the other generation because you're responsible for both. But if you can get help 24/7 or maybe a few hours, whatever the need is, hire a professional that can be there to avoid the falls.
It is, and it's pretty much muscle memory. The earlier their caregiver has a relationship, has a trust, they're being recognized by the client. By the time that if the diagnosis gets worse, they're already used to that caregiver.
Mhm.
If, for example, say you need to add grab bars to the restroom, maybe the client doesn't need them right now, but they start getting used to holding it. They get used to grabbing it. When the time comes that they really do, it's already muscle memory. They
Mhm.
don't think about it. You don't have to remind them. You don't have to fight with them to use that grab bar because you started that process in a preventative way. You just had to sneak it in there.
So training earlier
Yeah.
before they actually need it.
Yes.
I can see how that can be more beneficial because you're educating, training someone very gently, very slowly that they feel no pressure. When they get to the point that they really need it, they just do it automatically. They're like, oh, yeah, because their hand naturally has been going there for like the last month, 2 months, 3 months. So they already do it. And then that's the preventative. I
It's,
like that.
it is. It's perfect because, again, it's gradual versus you have an instance where right now the client falls. Everyone's schedule has to be put on alert. Now they're
hmm
hospitalized. They might be hospitalized a couple days, a couple weeks. There might be surgery. So now we have to come back to resetting and re-educating the family and the body of what if there's any limitations and if there's any complications. So you're going to get that clash with mom and daughter because Now it's like, oh, I still have to go pick up my kids, but I have to be with mom and she can't do it on her own. And here you bring a stranger, a caregiver that now they're going to be helping. So the client's like, well, angry, you're my daughter. How come you're not taking care of me? I took care of you.
Hmm.
So it's the time. Had it been gradual, again, we were hoping that it gets prevented at all costs. Sometimes, unfortunately, there still might be incidents, but it won't take a full surgery. It won't take months of rehab. It might just be a checkup, a bruise here. And everyone's schedule is like, oh, okay, mom, I go on Tuesday. My brother goes on Wednesday. This weekend, my sister goes next weekend. We're able to, everybody keeps their role and identity as a family member and not always the family caregiver.
Now, I know you mentioned earlier that you support San Diego. If someone in a different state needs something like that, is there a way that they can contact you for references, or how can they approach that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are conferences that we go local, statewide, national. I'm a mentor care with their component of the virtual ambassador. We're able to communicate and provide that service virtually as well and be able to connect you and do a warm transfer as well, not just a phone number and a
Hmm.
list of people to call. So we're able to maintain. It will depend on the location that it varies the timeline, but we're always able to. If I'm not able to assist you, I will definitely find someone to be able to help you. On my non-professional side, I am also part of Rotary International. Rotary International is worldwide. It's a service organization where we give back to the community. The motto is service above self. Here I am. I went from law to servicing people. So there's always going to be a Rotarian available and we're all connected. So again, it just takes me a little bit of research, but we would be able to assist you. There's resources in the community as well that are no cost.
So you're the president of the Rotary Club here in Southern California, right?
In Chula Vista, East
In
Lake.
Chile. Okay. So you've done that, gerontology, you moved away from law. Now, has there been an event that challenged you and almost broke you? All that.
Yes. So my grandmother, the same alpha female that I mentioned earlier, during COVID, she went undiagnosed through dementia. At her age, at the time, in the location that she was at in Mexico, specifically in the state of Nayarit, I saw the decline. I was able to see the change that happened to her physically, mentally. I saw the woman and I saw the disease that was the dementia and how it took over. I am the point of contact of my family. I am the specialist in gerontology, but I'm also the younger generation. I wish I would have been able to speak up a little bit louder when the care of having my grandma go from the States back to Mexico where she's comfortable in her own home. I do wish that I would have had a louder voice. I would have advocated for her and myself, knowing the challenges that would be and knowing that the resource and I wasn't going to be able to facilitate everything as I wish. So here I'm an advocate for families. And I feel I lacked a little bit because I am in the younger generation. There were family members that are older that made the decisions. I should have asserted myself in her aura, in her alpha, and said, no, wait, I'm the professional. So that component, again, my grandma lived a really good life, but I wish that she would have lived 200 years.
Yeah. And you mentioned something very, very powerful when it comes to voice. A lot of the times we lose our voice. Sometimes we're afraid of showing and speaking up. Other times we learn through hard times to always speak up. How was that transition for you? with your grandma maybe not speaking up the way that you should have, and now?
Yeah, no, it's a big impact. It was an eye opening to me because, again, I'm the professional, but I'm also the granddaughter. I'm the caregiver, I'm the family caregiver. Do I do what I know is best, or do I become the family member
Mm.
and let her make decisions and allow her to keep her independence? And that's where the conflict came. So I was able to still maneuver my way to give her some of the help that she didn't think she needed. I just didn't present it as a need.
Now, on that, because I've had very similar issues when it comes to helping my family and my close friends when it comes to finances, they don't see you as that person. They see you as a friend or a family member. And the way that I have worked around it is by having one of the people that I trust that do very similar work to what I do, teach them and help them out with their finances. Do you think that's an appropriate way to have other families that maybe have their professional in there, but maybe have someone else, like an exterior person, that can hum and be the professional? What do you think about that?
Absolutely, because in their eyes, they're still going to see you with the image of that younger generation.
Hmm.
I'm the younger granddaughter. They don't see me as a professional, they see me in my role as a granddaughter. So sometimes you just have to pinpoint the very obvious, but someone else just has to say it for there to be that aha moment.
Because we become parent death or friend death or family death. And when someone else says it, they're like, "You're right. You're smart. You're like the professional." And then we come and we're like, "Well, that's what I've been telling you for like the last years." And that happens all the time. Now, has there anyone that has helped you, mentored you throughout your entire gerontology career?
I have so many. I have a lot of mentors, actually. I'm coming up, this is my 19th year in
Mm,
gerontology. So it's almost been 2 decades of my service helping on both sides of the border, in the States and in Mexico. My professor from San Diego State, he is a big one. And I also have a mentor within Rotary.
mm.
He was the one that reeled me in. He is the calm voice. He reminds me of what my why is on those moments that I forget, because I'm also a new mom. So now I'm going through a different aspect in my life, and I understand now. One of the hardest things that I learned was patience in my career, but now learning patience with my son is a completely different aspect. But when you're in a community leadership role, it's imperative. You really do have to think before you say something, because it can be interpreted in a good or in positive way. But at the end of the day, it's, what was your intent? Was your intent a good intent, a peacemaking intent to resolve an issue? So
Hmm. I'm glad that you have mentors and that you're open to it, because we have to be around people that have been here a lot longer than us, that been in business, that been in a position of leadership a lot longer than us, so we can avoid some of the mistakes that they've made and that they learn from their mentors. So we can also pay it forward to other people that we're gonna mentor. I'm sure you're already mentoring a lot of people, families. That's already mentorship, to be able to help them have a better life on the last few years that they have left. Now, what's a lesson that you have learned the hard way, Odette?
once again, patience.
Patience.
Patience, because here you are. Again, I started as a law major and I want to change and I want justice. But sometimes the people that need it the most are the least likely to open up to you.
What do you mean?
So sometimes you want to help a client, you want to help your neighbor, but they refuse the help. And they need it, but they are too proud. They want their independence. So those are the hardest. Like, why can't you just say yes? Like, this is good for you. So you have to just Every client, every person, you have to see them as their own puzzle and be able to come through the sides and show them why little steps can help,
Mm.
what the changes is. I've learned throughout my career of it's not about how fast I can make the change is just the goal. Did I make a change? Sometimes it takes me a week, sometimes it takes me a month. But what I learned throughout that adventure of that time, there's a trust component that some of the most memorable clients that I have were the ones that give me the hardest time, but then they appreciated the aftermath. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for showing me. You for making me see, helping my family. And then they actually referred you to other family members, other clients, because it was in that lack of patience the trust component came in. If I would have had an immediate, yes, let's do it, I would not have built that relationship.
Hmm. So patient. And I'm glad that you stick with people, even though we know they need our services, but that doesn't matter because they have to believe that they need the services before they make a decision. And just the fact that you stay with them, you give them resources, you give them education, you give this, you give that, like you said, go from side and then from the other side until they open up. When they trust you, they start opening up. Now you believed, they believed, now business can happen. Now they can live a better life. And now they start referring you more people because they trust you. You've been doing really good work. Uh,
Correct.
and that's with anything. Like
Mhm.
we always do business with the people that we love, the people that we trust, that have our best interest at heart.
Yeah, and sometimes you form really good relationships that you end up becoming really great friends.
Hmm.
Really, really great friends. Some of my best friends are twice my age.
Well, you've been doing this for 19 years,
So,
almost on
yeah.
your 20. So there's all these friends that you have made that have introduced you to their families. So you're already a good resource for the family that they had, right? Now, what stage of your life are you currently in?
In a new stage. I'm in a motherhood stage right now. I'm loving my son. He definitely kicks in. The whole handbook has been thrown out the window with him, but now I'm able to slow down. I wasn't that fast-paced component
Hmm.
of here in the United States all the time being one place to another. I would go visit my grandma and it slowed down. But I came back and it was back to going fast, fast, fast. With my son, now I'm really able to capture and the essence and the little things that matter. And the biggest component that I see is the legacy and the generational legacies that I'm able to bridge that gap.
What's a memory that you just made with your son? What's something that he did that you're like, that is funny or that is different? That reminds you of you maybe or your grandma?
I was a handful. So I already knew what I was gonna get myself into. But oh my God, let me think about this one for a second. There's too many. There's too many. So not too long ago, my mother-in-law was helping with care, and we thought he was sleeping. And then suddenly you just hear like giggles, hee 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 hee, and little giggles. Found out that he discovered the Vaseline. So he had Vaseline, he had like little dryness in his nose. So I
Uh-huh.
left the Vaseline tub. It was near his crib. He found it, he grabbed it and poured it in his hair and had like a little mohawk style. And then he was playing around with the texture of it. He put it on because he sees me putting on my face cream. So he's putting it on. But then he didn't like it on his hands, so of course he goes and he cleans it on. Then he went back again to the tub and he's just being curious. I got myself in trouble a couple times for being very curious, but I do see a lot of me in him.
It's good. I'm glad that
Yeah.
he's curious. I'm glad that he's
Yeah.
curious and just testing everything because that's how they get better.
Yeah, so now I know why my mom had me in soccer year round to keep me tired. I am definitely going to follow from my mother's footsteps and I'm going to keep him busy as well.
Okay, I'm glad that you're having a fun time, being a mom, this new stage. Now, what do you hope people listening take away from your journey, your story of it?
Once again, do hope that everyone is able to merge the past and the future. There's always something that we can learn from our past elders.
Hmm.
It could be an immediate family member, it can be a role model, it can be a celebrity, something that you learn, that you cherish, and that you want to continue that. You want to leave a little grain in this world of something that you are remembered. I have my son now, that he is hopefully going to be my legacy. But what I want to pass through my blood is that component from my grandmother, never to be submissive and always advocate for yourself and for someone else if you're able to.
I like that. Now, is there anything that I haven't asked that you wish you want to share?
Professionally, I think we've got the core component.
Okay.
Yes.
What about personally?
I have too many hobbies. I don't have enough time in the day for my hobbies anymore.
Okay. So, what is a financial habit that you have been living by recently?
Well, every time you hear you have to save and save for a rainy day. Once my son was born, it was a whole different component that I got scholarships to go to college, but I'm now with my husband, we had to go through do a college fund, an ROA.
Mm,
So he doesn't have to even think about the option of, do I have to work? Do I have to work two jobs? Or do I go to school? Do I go to school full time? So we're both able to bring that gift of education, that there won't be a need to pick
hmm.
A or B.
I'm glad that you're planning already at an earlier age so he has options. He wants to go to school, he wants to start a business, he wants to invest, that is more options that you're giving to your legacy because of everything that you have learned up to today and you're putting it into practice.
Correct.
I'm glad that you're doing that. Now, my last question is for my previous guest.
Okay.
You ready for it? So the previous guest said, who would you like to spend the day and ask anything?
This one's actually hard for me because I'm a believer of not waiting. I don't like the what ifs. So, for example, with my grandma, I spent endless days just hearing her stories, of my family members hearing their stories, my neighbors hearing those stories. If I have a curiosity, I will ask you directly. The worst thing that you're going to say is no. So I usually don't have that what ifs. But if I had to think maybe of a celebrity or a role model of what they did now that has made me different, or there's a book for the with the Chicano studies that always resonated with me, and the author I am blanking out, but her name was in the book Esperanza. Esperanza was the name, which is not an easy name. It's hope in English, and that's what the poem talks about.
Hmm.
The first time I heard that poem, me being an Odette, not having a traditional Latina name, I always remembered that poem, and I wish I would be in the room with the author of what they were thinking of. Because there was a time I didn't like my name. Like, I wanted to be a Maria. I wanted to be a Martha. I wanted to go to Disneyland and find a keychain with my name on it. I never found it. So then I learned cricket and I made my own. But the main thing is there's aspects of oneself that sometimes you don't agree with, you don't understand at that time, you don't like. As an older me, I love my name. I am an Odette. I'm not a Maria. I'm not an Olivia. Like, I like my name now. So hearing that poem made a big impact in my life. At that time, I needed to hear those words. So, and I do apologize for the author. I'm blanking out
But it's
on the
Esperanza.
name, but she talks about, and I would like to be a fly in the wall, how it is that she came up with that because that was very impactful for me.
Well, Odette, thank you so much for sharing your life journey with us. Going from law, going from gerontology, and now with the mom. Being a mom, I wish you great success. There's a lot of legacies that you're building and passing down just like they were passed down to you. And to the listeners, thank you so much for sticking with us. If you know anyone that needs Odette services or they're in law or gerontology or anything, they just need guidance, reach out. All her information is going to be right below. And remember to always pay yourself first. See you next episode.
Thanks for being part of this project to share people's journey. Like, share, and subscribe. See you next chapter.